I guess now. Well, here we are at the Empowering Women in Construction podcast, and I am delighted to have this lovely Paula McMahon with us today that's going to share her amazing story. And she's a woman with many talents, and I can't wait to hear more. But let's start first and foremost by finding out a little bit more about yourself, Paula, and your journey into construction.
Thank you very much, Georgina. So yeah, my name's Paula. I currently work for Sir Robert McAlpine, but I'll take you back a little bit to when I was at school. So I first of all sort of found out about engineering from my careers officer, since I was good at maths and problem solving. And I was very lucky to get a work experience placement at my local council. And that worked out really well and reinforced that I wanted to go into engineering. So I was a trainee from age 16, and I was very lucky to get my degree in civil engineering at my local council. I've since worked at quite a number of places because the council disbanded, and I've worked all over the country and quite a few different places in the world, doing lots of different things, sometimes design, sometimes on construction sites. And yeah, I totally love it. So I now have a degree, and I'm very lucky that the level of jobs that I've had have allowed me to also become a Chartered Fellow of the Institution of Civil Engineers and a Chartered Fellow of the Chartered Management Institute.
Wow. So from the age of 16, you've been interested in this. Well, you've had the opportunity to get started, but you've been curious for some time. But it sounds like you do so much, Paula. I don't know where you find the time to do it all. It sounds absolutely incredible that you're part of so many things. So could you tell us a little bit more? I mean, obviously you're working with Sir Robert McAlpine, and they have the privilege of having you on their team. Could you tell us a little bit more about your journey with this organisation?
Absolutely, yeah. So I chose to actually work for Sir Robert McAlpine when they were working for me from my last employer. They were my civil contractor, and I was the construction manager on the SNF project in Billingham, close to where I live. And I liked the company, and I decided that there was some personal circumstances, that there was some illness in the family, and I realised that I just couldn't do what I was doing at the time, which was doing lots of international travel. So I chose to apply for a job at my local Sir Robert McAlpine office, where they look after the A19. And so I joined there as a structures engineer, and shortly after became highway structures manager. And I was supposed to, I helped out with the highway structures management for a number of years, and then handed over to the team to carry on that work, because I was supposed to be going on to a large contract where we were repairing a big bridge. That, for a number of reasons, didn't happen. And all around the same time, a few things happened that we had a requirement to bring in social value into the project. So that was to do more STEM work and other community work. And I was asked to manage that. And at the same time as well, I was asked to take on a bigger responsibility looking after the people in Sir Robert McAlpine to become professionally qualified themselves. So I'm really, really lucky that my current role working on the A19 for Sir Robert McAlpine is all of the stuff that I totally love doing, all of the STEM stuff, all of the getting people in the company in the whole of Scotland and the north of England professionally qualified with the Institution of Civil Engineers. So I'm loving life, Georgina.
It sounds brilliant. I mean, you know, they say that if you can find work that you love, that you never work another day of your life. And it sounds like you found that. It's really, really incredible. And I was so fascinated because I was having a look at your LinkedIn profile, Paula, and it says, I'm very passionate about having a sustainable pool of engineers with a diverse profile to ensure we can solve society's problems now and in the future.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's quite incredible. Just that statement alone. So you have had some really great opportunities to look at not only the construction, but specifically STEM-based activities and so forth. And you've just mentioned that. Could you tell us a little bit more about some of that work in particular?
Yeah, so in terms of STEM for those that don't know is science, technology, engineering, maths, and generally those that say we're STEM ambassadors means that we go out into schools and into the public to promote the concept of working in their subjects that a lot of young people and people at home don't necessarily think something that's for them, something that they can translate into a job. So for myself, it's obviously I'm the E of STEM, the engineering, and I do lots and lots of activities. I go into schools. I'm back going into schools after COVID. I do lots of stuff online and make the most of the opportunities that we've got. And I work with lots of great people in all sorts of different sectors. One of the things that I've actually done was I took part in the Women's Engineering Society Where's Lottie tour in 2020, when obviously we were in lockdown, and in true sort of fashion of an engineer solving a problem rather than worrying about what we can't do, I decided that since I couldn't do the normal taking selfies of myself and the Lottie doll at work, because I wasn't at work because we were in lockdown, I actually decided to make the most of my extra time and the opportunity, and I actually wrote in fact I wrote 3 books about adventures with Lottie, which covers quite a lot of things to do with engineering and STEM, but also my other passion, which is helping people to be more sustainable, to look forward to the future by sort of making everyday changes in their lives. So I managed to get 3 books wrote, which are free to download from the Where's Lottie Tour resources site, and I've managed to since get some printed, and yeah, they've gone down really well. So that's one of the many things that I've done, and well, I just love it. What can you say?
Wow. So I think you're going to be putting most of us to shame. So in lockdown, when everybody's sort of just relaxing, you've written 3 books. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. As I say, I don't know where you find the energy and the time, but what's really sort of coming through is just your passion, Paula. It's really inspiring me just hearing about, right, it was this, so I thought, you know what, I'll just write a book, or, you know, I want to tackle this thing, so I thought I'd just do this and do that. So it's really, really incredible. And also within the STEM, you've been able to nominate other people for awards. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in sort of getting those that's in underrepresented groups, whether that's female, colour of skin, sexual orientation, socioeconomic, whatever it might be, to actually get people as visible as possible. Because at the end of the day, lots of young people need to sort of associate with somebody that looks and feels like them, someone that can actually sort of have a bit of a can say that could be me. And so yeah, so I've been very lucky to win awards and be nominated for quite a few awards myself, some of which are behind me, and I believe in sort of paying that forward. So at the moment, the current Northern Power Woman, Futures and Power lists, there's actually 4 people on there that I personally nominated, and there's 3 people currently as well on the Women's Engineering Society WE50 lists, which the current ones are our engineering heroes. So, you know, it's really, really good that I can, from a little bit of input from myself, help showcase all of these other wonderful people in our sectors to help through awards sort of diversify it in the future. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I think there's something really powerful about being acknowledged, maybe when you haven't necessarily been acknowledged previously. And I just love that it feels like you're not just about kind of receiving and I guess thinking about the change. You're actually out there making it happen, and really thinking about those that are underrepresented, and not necessarily those that have the same access to things. And that's something that we're really passionate about within Bud, and that's actually why I started Bud, because I just thought, how can people have ideas about things that they want to do and not have I guess, the same access that everybody else has, and what can we do about it, you know? So that's why we're having some more of these conversations, and really thinking about that. And I remember I had a great conversation with Paulette around STEM as well, and she was saying some of these similar things. So it's interesting that it's continuing to come through about not only the understanding of it, but also that actually I could potentially have a role, a career in this sort of thing, which is obviously really important to today's society. So yeah, so sort of thinking about these things which are really important. We've called this empowering women in construction, but obviously there are so many other things to consider in this industry, and I guess those that don't always have access to spaces, or feel that they don't, or maybe they're not sure that they could fit in a place that is predominantly for, you know, white males.
Yeah.
But there's a lot changing, would you say, Paula? I mean, what's your experience been, and what are your thoughts around women in construction, and maybe the typical type of person that normally goes for those roles?
Yeah, I mean, it is changing, which is brilliant. I mean, one of the sort of things that I also help with is I'm a trustee for the Institution of Civil Engineers, and I know the metrics associated with that are actually showing an improving sort of set of diversity numbers, which is brilliant. So we now actually have 15% female membership, which is the highest we've ever had. And 22% of them are under the age of 40, which I think is what's helping drive up that number, because we have a lot of young female members. What's also encouraging as well is we've got an increase in people that represent, that associate with being BAME. And so we're getting a lot more successes than we've had in a very, very long time. As a result of all of these things, there's lots and lots of things and lots of triggers why people sort of go into a career, which is really, really encouraging. But there's no doubt about it, we still have a long way to go. But I'm personally very hopeful for the future. And we're seeing as well that we're getting actually an increase year on year of people entering into the profession via their sort of studies. So we're seeing that increase in studies. So hopefully we're at the beginning of a curve that's going to go up and up and get us to where we need to be, which in my opinion is we should have a workforce that represents the society that we actually serve, because we're the ones that's making the decisions for everybody. So we should have the people making them decisions that represent, you know, the cultures, the thoughts, the needs of those that are going to utilize our services, our projects. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many things that we could consider in terms of, you know, the change itself. But what do you think are some of the kind of key barriers to women entering these sort of spaces? I know that things are changing, which is great. You know, we've still got a long way to go, but yeah, what do you think some of those barriers might be?
I think there's two barriers. One is the confidence of actually the people themselves. I mean, I deal with loads of young people and females in the industry that are lacking confidence themselves. And I think putting people forward for things like these awards and acknowledging and just saying thank you, you're doing a good job, is a real big part of helping with that. A lot of people don't need a huge amount of support to bring up the confidence. And then there's definitely perceptions. There's still people that think that women can't, you know, do an engineering job or work in STEM, which for me I find incredible, but it's absolutely still there. I spoke at an event a few weeks ago, International Women's Day, and a mother came to me afterwards and said, I'm now going to speak to my two daughters about getting into civil engineering or something else, because that's where their skills actually are. But by her own admission, she said she was a bit embarrassed that she'd been trying to persuade them into what she considered to be a more suitable role, you know, and this was an educated lady who was a business lady herself, you know, and she just said, I'm embarrassed, I never really thought about it that way. So changing perceptions is really key, because remember, the people at home, the people that are teaching our students in schools are the ones that also need to have the perceptions changed, because they don't always think that things are open to all So yeah,
really really
one person at a
interesting.
time, Georgina.
I know we can only do what we can do, right? But it's very interesting that you spoke about confidence, number one, because again, that's something that we've seen, that people can have great ideas, but they sort of think, well, I don't think I could actually do this. I'm not sure that I could be the one to, I guess, go against the grain of the stigmas that are there, and how would I do it, and lots of people get lost there. So even in a lot of the things that we do at Buds, before you even begin to think about the actual kind of career or the change that needs to happen, it's like, actually, let's just look at you as the individual and empower you to realize that actually you can. You might have thought that you can't, but actually you can, and it's not as hard as it seems, and we will kind of walk you through that journey. And I love that you're doing that in your space, because as you said, one at a time. If we all do something like that, then we can all make a difference with the next generation, because so much needs to change, and there needs to be more opportunities, doesn't there, for people to step into and to feel they can.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is the people need to maximize their own opportunities. So that's looking wider, and the more you sort of, the more pies you've got your fingers in, the more chance you've got of getting something. But then you've got to have the confidence to actually go for them opportunities. And the amount of people I know that talk themselves out of good ideas just because of their own weight on the shoulders, they just talk themselves out of it. It's like, just stop doing that and just go for it. It was a good idea, see it through, and the combination of them equals success for people individually. And then obviously the more people that get into the industry, that become the voice within the industry, that diversify it, then it's a success for everybody.
Yeah. So there's that thing around the representation. And I mean, just that one story, I'm sure there's plenty and plenty of others that have heard, your own story and your journey. And this is why we're doing this podcast as well, so that people do actually realize, hold on a minute, there's plenty of like other women and people that have been on this journey. And so why can't I do that? And so it is about having those that look like them, telling their story, sharing that. And I love that, SRM have been able to do that as well in so many ways, and that they're really also thinking about diversity and how they can promote that within their organization.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've got lots of affinity groups within Sir Robert McAlpine. I'm lucky to sit on two of them. I sit on the gender network, and I also,
of course you are, Paula, you're sitting on every board and doing everything that you possibly can. So great.
Also LGBTQ plus as well. So and there's lots of other affinity networks, and truthfully it's all similar. What we need to do, it's all very similar, and we do support each other, and we do sort of work together for them overlaps to give everybody that push, and to make changes, actionable changes, tangible things that we can do to accelerate change, which is great.
Brilliant. And in terms of celebrating, because I think it's great to think about those achievements as much as you are helping others, I'm really actually quite intrigued to find out more about all of your awards, because I know that you have several. Could you just kind of give us a quick walkthrough about some of those awards and how you got them?
I've got quite a few. Some from when I was doing research from school. Last year's Institution of Civil Engineers North East STEM Ambassador of the Year, Mentor of the Year from G4C, which is Generation for Change, which is Constructing Excellence. A couple from the Apprenticeship Network, because I'm a North East Apprentice Ambassador, and I was the last year's regional winner, and I was also highly commended nationally. What I don't have on the shelf is actually on the European WICE Awards, which is WICE's Women in Construction and Engineering. I actually was the Lifetime in Engineering. Oh no, I'm still the current Lifetime in Engineering recipient.
Wow.
I've got a couple of awards from our STEM Ambassador Network. I've got a WE50 WES Award myself that I won 2019, I think, which when apprentices were the was the topic, and a couple from T's Business Women Awards as well. So one last year was the training and apprenticeship, because the amount of work that we do in the region on the A19 project and in the Northeast to help get variety of people into different types of training and apprenticeship. And I'm the current holder of the Lifelong Inspiration Award as well, which is pretty cool.
Wow. I mean, I'm not sure that I've met someone with so many awards. That's amazing. And how does it feel? So one of the things that I always consider is when you arrive at a place in life where you have power, let's call it that, and you're able to, I guess, kind of rest and feel that I've done quite a bit. I've done a lot, and I've been I guess I've been acknowledged for all the things that I've done. How is it that you've managed to translate that into your work? Because it feels like you just want to disseminate that power, but how have you been able to, I guess, kind of keep a level head and stay focused on the change that you're trying to bring?
In all honesty, I mean, I don't actually use the word power. I prefer to think about it as sort of influence, because I prefer to do it in a positive sort of a way and persuade people, rather than, I always think power could have a negative connotations if you're telling people what to do. But yeah, how, like, influence, I've always, to be honest, because of my various roles in projects, I've always had an amount of it at work. It's just now different. I'm just really, really lucky that I've got the time and space to help influence people in a positive way, sort of in diversity, engineering, STEM, and knowledge sharing and education, really. How does it feel? It feels really good when you see the results of it. For me, all of this is just an indication of the fact that people appreciate what I do, and it's actually making a difference, because most of these were other people nominated me for them, which was absolutely fantastic. But it makes you feel sort of like you're on the right track. But equally, what makes me feel really great is when you hear that somebody that you're mentoring or helping progress gets their certificate, their minute of fame, whatever it might be. And actually that makes me feel probably better than other stuff behind me, if truth be told.
I can definitely 100% agree with you on that, Paula, because there's nothing quite like it, is it, when you feel that there's been a moment of transformation in somebody else's life and that you've been part of that. That trumps everything else that you could possibly achieve. And it's, again, you know, thinking about work, you're like, this isn't work, this is just amazing, this is fantastic. And you were doing that in such a great way. And I love that you talked about power. Power is one of those very interesting words, and we do a lot around kind of community organizing and leadership and power. And it's very interesting because power is actually quite neutral. It just amplifies whoever holds it. And it's very clear that you've even, you know, refrained from using that word power, because actually what you want to do is influence positively. And what has happened is you've been able to amplify that influence and that whatever you have in you, and just make such a difference to so many people, not only, I guess, in the world of construction, but in the lives of these young people, and really helping them to see themselves in a different way, but showing them that actually you can, exactly what I said. So being part of that is absolutely fantastic. And where would you, you know, thinking about all the work that you're doing and the changes that are happening in the industry and the 500 boards that you're on, and all of the things that you do in the books, and the books that you've written, but you're involved, you know, you've got your finger in so many pies around change and supporting this change. Where would you hope to see this industry in, say, five years?
I would like to see us far more diverse and far more sustainable. And to me, diversity sits within sustainability. We have to be diverse to be able to look forward and continue on in a good way. But I do think we need to sort of look as well in terms of environmental, and we definitely get the way. I mean, I've just come off a quarterly team briefing for Sir Robert McAlpine, and we've been doing some great stuff on our projects, looking at the materials that we use and reusing them, and giving them away, you know, for the circular economy. And all of that, to me, is sort of wrapped up in sustainability, and just thinking wider. and thinking beyond today, thinking more long term, and being just kinder to the people that are doing things today, and be kinder for the future generations. And I do think we're very much getting there. And I would like to hope that in the next 5 years we accelerate that to such a point at which it's embedded within our day-to-day thinking, and therefore it comes out at the back end. So within our projects and within our workforce, we've really much closer to where we need to be.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there's a lot already in motion in terms of trying to make that happen within Sir Robert McAlpine. And what would you say to other organisations, you know, those that are trying to be more diverse and thinking about, you know, encouraging more women into the industry and so forth? What are some of the key things that you would recommend for them?
Well, I think look around at what other people are doing and what's successful. Stop. If we all try and do our own thing and reinvent the wheel, then we're just wasting lots and lots of time and energy, because there's lots of good stuff out there. There's lots of good examples of what we can do. So if we collaborate and build upon what people are doing, so then we can that's accelerating it. So you're not starting from scratch and scratching your head and thinking, where do I start? There's lots of people with lots of expertise already in the industry. Let's stop working in silos. Let's stop trying to, I don't know, create something that's your own. Let's instead be more collaborative and work together for the end goal, rather than worrying about individual sort of recognition.
Absolutely, yeah. I love that word, collaboration. We've developed our own inclusive leadership sort of program with our own parts of it, and it's called ROC, and it stands for releasing control is the R, and then the O is about taking ownership of our kind of selves and our own well-being, but also some of our unconscious biases, and then the C is basically all about collective intelligence. And it's so interesting that we're always trying to do things alone and like, I think I know, and so forth, but we're so much more powerful, and I'll use that word in the positive way. When we come together and we share and we learn, and there's so much that we can do so much more together. So yeah, definitely love that kind of collaboration and that collective intelligence side of things as well. And what would you say to somebody who's a woman that is thinking, oh, I'm kind of thinking about getting into this industry, but I'm not sure? What would you say to them?
Stop thinking about it and just do it. I think it really is. I mean, it's a great industry to be in. The variety of work that you can do is great. You are sort of helping society. You can see something at the end of the day for what you're actually producing. It's extremely rewarding, and you know, the time is definitely now to get into it. I think we really are. We've seen lots of positive changes, and I think we're going to see a lot more very soon. So go for it.
Lovely. So stop thinking about it, just do it. And the time is now. Love it. Paula, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing more about your journey and all of your achievements, and just keep doing what you're doing. We need more people like you. So absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
And the same to you, Georgina. It's absolutely great, all the work that you're doing. Between us, we can.
Absolutely. Let's keep doing it. Very, very great. Thanks, Paula. Right.